and it was like $230 worth of propane.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, "Meh."
That's what you said to the oil guy.
Well, no, I didn't. No, I was like, "Meh." I think it was
He's
like
like,
that.
he's like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, he ran.
Mr. Bungle didn't stop to wash his hands or comb his hair. He went right to lunch.
I'm not against listening to, secular music, and yes, there is there's definitely secular music that's garbage that you ought not to listen to. But there's some that is like really thoughtful, profound, and yes, can be something that is beautiful and can cause you to appreciate the creator of beauty. Sure. It's become the norm that, children have devices, and they have devices that access the internet, and they have them from a very young age. That is the norm in our society now. But just because it's the norm doesn't make it good, doesn't make it the best thing. And we just need to be thinking about that. And so the bottom line is, if your kid has a phone and he or she is like 11 or 12 and has access to the internet, and you're going to have no idea what they're listening to, unless you're purposefully checking it. But you'd be better off also to be restricting, what they're watching, what they're listening to in advance, but also being able to monitor as well. Oh, certainly. Yeah, I just feel like today it's even more so. Parents just like their child has this complete other online life that they know nothing about. So for me, when I was young, I definitely, once I got into like middle school, I had this second life where it was completely different, and the stuff that I spoke with my friends about, and sometimes when I was over someone's house, maybe the video games that I was playing, or some of the movies or TV shows that I was getting to watch, or music that I was getting to listen to. So there was that. But today, if you have a device that accesses the internet and you're a child, you just have way more opportunity to have so much more exposure. Like, I think about my exposure, especially because I have an older brother, 5 years older than me, who basically became like a party animal and was just all about that. And he wanted me to be that as well. So I had this access to things that other kids might not have because of him. So there was that. And then, like I said, going over to other people's houses with different standards. I think about all that exposure I had, and whatever, it made me who I am to some degree, but there was definitely a bad aspect of it that, as a parent now, man, I would want to know about that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And now I think today, man, you're giving this kid a smartphone at the age of 12. Talk about like music and videos and movies that you don't want them watching, or that, man, you would really at least want to know what they're taking in so that you can respond to it and talk about it with them. It's just such a greater level of exposure.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
Yeah. And especially with the introduction of Netflix and, the other kind of streaming services that aren't just TV. So, you don't even have to subscribe to a certain channel anymore to be able to see things. And that's, that goes with movies and TV, because if you do restrict a student, I know there were plenty of movies I wasn't allowed to go into theaters to see. And when I was a kid, that was annoying because I didn't really know much about rated R movies. I think going into my teen years, the only rated R movie I had seen was Gladiator, which I was probably too young for that because I didn't understand a lot of what was happening. But I was 9 when I saw it, and I thought it was terrific.
In theaters?
No, I think I saw it on HBO or something like that. Probably, something like that, because my dad had HBO. But and it was violent. But But there was no real, at least I don't remember there being cussing. But
there's some, but I think there's nudity, right?
I don't remember.
I think
it's been many years.
And it's I did see it back in the day. Yep.
Yeah, so I had access to that, but my dad also didn't mind that I watched it. Again, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
But now it's just crazy, because if you don't let someone, if you don't go see something, or you're telling your family you're not, no one's gonna go see it, it'll be on Netflix in 6 months, or Hulu, or one of the
Sure.
other streaming services.
And with social media, I mean, think about some of the things you've seen your social media friends, and like in friends in quotation, right? You probably have all sorts of friends that you met one time, or maybe you haven't even met. But think about the different things that you see on your Facebook timeline, or whether it be like a Twitter feed or Instagram or whatever. Just all the stuff that's just really vulgar, right? Just super vulgar memes. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And now just imagine, your 10-year-old basically being exposed to all of that. It's kind of like, your young child being exposed to, I don't know, like the football locker room in high school, or whatever. Just super vulgar stuff. And it's not they're not even necessarily doing that, or it's not even, it's just there's so many people, and you can basically just say whatever you want, which I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to speak freely, but it's just that exposure at such a young age. And it's a tough matter on where to draw the line, because obviously we all shelter children to some degree, and you need to. That's good parenting. But at a certain point, you need to expose them to certain things so that they're not utterly shocked when they become adults. Yet still, do I think that like just vile, vulgar language, and or sexually provocative pictures, or like
Which is Instagram.
Oh yeah. Or just straight up nudity. And do I think, would I want like my 10-year-old or my 12-year-old child to be exposed to that? And, the answer is no.
Especially
Definitely not.
because it's treated with so much normalcy,
Yes.
which is scary. I don't even have any social media anymore, but that doesn't mean I'm not aware.
And like I have a Twitter, and I'm probably at some point going to switch it over to just being the podcast, but it's just been my personal one for now. And most of the people that I follow are public figures.
Okay.
And, so I had various tabs open. I was just scrolling through that. And then, my daughter comes over and she sits next to me, and if there's a screen on, if I have my laptop open, I'm getting a hug then, that's for sure. Oh, hey, Daddy, what are you doing? Wants to see that screen. And, I just had been scrolling through Twitter, and then, I'm talking to her, and she's looking at the screen. And then I look in the post, that's right there. It's some political commentary, and I'm reading a couple lines. Oh, great. Oh, he's swearing. Great. So I just quickly, I think I scrolled, and then I hit the tab over to a different website that I had open. And it's just, it just made me think about the how it's become normal to just be, you're just exposed to so much speech online. And a lot of people have debased mind, or whatever. They just they riddle their speech with curse words and stuff, and you kind of get desensitized to it, but it still does matter, not that you yourself are using that language, or we shouldn't be, but I was just thinking about that. To me, unless it's super, super vile, it doesn't when I'm online and reading posts from people, it doesn't faze me unless it's maybe vulgar in a sexual manner, like that, but just swear words and stuff. Again, I don't swear. I do think that falls under corrupt communication, like Paul talks about, but online, there's just so much of it,
Yeah.
And I think about that for kids. They're online, and they're seeing all these posts that are just laced with expletives and also horrible grammar, but that's another topic. It's just the effect it's having on that, making that this is the way you should communicate.
I was getting a haircut by my barber recently, and he was telling me about how he sometimes goes on, was it PlayStation or Xbox, whatever, to do live. And
Oh, okay.
he was talking about how one of the younger kids that he does haircuts for invited him to a party. Oh, what's your tag? I'll invite you to a party of, again, whatever game. And he goes, yeah, this kid he's real quiet in the barber shop, He goes, and then I'm listening to him, and he is just mouthing off and going nuts. And he goes, I was embarrassed just listening to this kid talk.
I was scandalized. I had to tune out.
Yeah, and the barber's my age. But it's true that the same thing with me is and I don't think it's necessarily right, but being desensitized to swearing means, I can, listen to things more. It's nuts with yeah, we're talking about just the internet in general, but it's crazy.
Sure. Yeah, because it's given everyone a platform to be able to put their thoughts out there for everyone to read, to produce their own content. And, because of that, there's not the censorship that there would be on your, the TV channels and, the traditional outlets. Yeah, so I mean that's something to navigate. That's an important issue, and I mean when we're thinking about all of these different media, really, I was going to say mediums, and then I was like, no, don't do that. Basically, it's primarily just fiction stories, right? They're manifesting in different ways. We have books, we have TV, we have movies, those sorts of things. And at least when it comes to children, one thing that I have found that's interesting to navigate, and I had this a bit when I was a youth pastor too. Sometimes parents would bring this up, but not that much. And again, another layer of it is when I was young, I remember this being an issue because me wanting to read certain books. I remember Goosebumps.
Oh.
Those books. I liked them. And, I mean, and in reality, they're probably not that scary. It's just like a little bit. When you're a kid, it can seem, you have like an exaggerated sense of what it is. But I can remember my third grade teacher, who was a Christian. She may have taken it away. She may have like barred Goosebumps in her classroom. I can't remember, but it was something like that. Or she saw that I had it and she gave me kind of a talking to about like, you shouldn't be reading that. Because she knew that I was from a Christian family. And really great lady, actually. I would see her at the former church here and there. And but I remember that. And I remember my dad certainly, if it was just anything that was kind of like scary or like Halloween-ish or, that sort of stuff, it was a no-no. And that's a tough thing to navigate because there is some truth to that, but it's like where to draw the line. I mean, as a parent who's a Christian, who's now observant about this stuff, I mean, we have movie night on Friday night and we have Disney Plus and, especially like Disney movies, man, so many of them have magic in them, or like witches and warlocks or wizards or whatever. And man, I remember one that really stood out to me was an old movie. Maybe it's from the 60s, but it was King Arthur, right?
Okay.
And I figured it was going to be about the actual king and him like doing his thing, but it was him when he was a boy, and the whole thing was about like Merlin, the wizard, and then the witch that he was battling, and it was just awful, turning people into animals and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, man, like I literally tried to pick this one because I was thinking, well, this one probably won't have too much magic in it and stuff, and it's all magic. And I don't know, it's tough where to draw the line on that. Obviously, your child is very, very young, so you haven't had too much of this, but I don't know, have you thought any about, let's say, books or just these fiction stories and the level of magic type stuff, witchy?
Yeah. Well, so far she loves unicorns, but
oh no.
yeah. No, we're not super concerned about unicorns. One thing that I was talking with my wife about just today on the subject of books were I'll put it in quotes, the woke books that have been out these days. There's from the writer, it's a Marvel writer. He ended up writing a book called Santa's Black Husband.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
So there's that. Then there's a couple story. Anti-racist baby is a popular one.
I have heard of that.
And just a few other ones about babies being racist or not, or how not to be a racist, and transgender babies and things like that.
And of course, not being a racist is a good thing, but there's the question
Yes.
of
Yeah,
when
yes.
you engage anti-racism, and it seems like every single thing is all about race and making huge assumptions about people based upon race. That we seem is what we would take issue with.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, and just going into Target and seeing the children's book section, and I mean the infant section, and it's infants because they have the cardboard pages. Because they don't trust babies with the real pages.
sure.
There's a lot of books that you just kind of see, and you know what it's going to be about, but at least those are a little easier to identify. And
Yeah. I mean, that's still important for people to think about, though, because some of that stuff can just be so. You just get hammered over and over in the media and just in our culture and celebrities and stuff. They are parroting all of these talking points so much so that, I don't know. People hear it enough and then they begin to agree with it. So, yeah, all of that stuff, definitely compare it to scriptural principles. See what the Word of God says. If it goes against what the culture says, it's okay if you lose some friends.
yeah, yeah, and she doesn't have many friends yet except your girls, so
Oh,
so
sure.
she hasn't lost any friends through it.
Well, and the
But
parents, yeah. But like you said, those are easier to, for parents to like identify, well, this might be junk.
yeah, but I have seen, there have been petitions out to change certain shows or to remove certain characters. I think about Paw Patrol, and they wanted to get rid of the police officer dog. I don't know his name, but they wanted to get rid of him because he was a cop.
Yeah, and are they like all police officers? Because they're patrol, like
I don't
they're
know.
cops.
But there's one that's an
Yeah.
actual police officer dog, and they want to get rid of that. And there's been some ones that are about racism or the boy wears pink and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And um, you know, if you're comfortable with letting your kid watch that, I would just say watch it first because there's a lot of subtle things in there that I wouldn't have picked up as a kid, but probably influenced me one way or the other.
Yeah.
I know even Arthur's still on TV, and
Oh, yeah,
and
'cause-
Arthur's doing some stuff.
Yes. There's like a lesbian character or,
There's-
some,
well,
or
the-
some, something like that.
Mr. Rathburn is gay,
Okay.
and the teacher, and then they did an episode on racism.
Yeah.
I don't remember who was supposed to be, who was racist against who in it.
What's funny too, but just like a side thought, is I wonder if all this stuff is being grabbed hold of by schools and like different institutions that indoctrinate children, and I wonder if that's just going to make like in 10 years, like all the kids rebel against it because generally
Oh.
kids want to rebel. So if all of this stuff is being jammed down their throat institutionally, if we're gonna see like a great reversal because of that, I don't know, that's just a random thought, but yes, you're seeing all of this stuff in these different cartoons.
Yeah, and she only watches one show, and it's called Word Party, and we haven't really had any issues with Word Party, so
Yeah.
I'll watch that with her for a little bit.
Should probably just go with Teletubbies, I think.
Oh yeah, no,
Well, you
so
didn't even think about it.
I didn't. That show gave me the creeps, and I was at the gas station recently. Side note, and a woman mentioned Teletubbies to me, because we were talking about kids shows, and she said, "Oh, I remember this one stupid show where all the little people were pink and purple and red." And I said, "Teletubbies?" She goes, "Yeah, that was the worst show. I was a nanny, and these kids watched Teletubbies." Yeah, and she's not in an age to do so, but we would definitely like to be able to have honest conversations with our daughter when she gets old enough and teach her to discern things for herself,
Yeah.
because I did and didn't have that option. I know my mom was pretty hands-on with music, if it had the parental advisory stickers, but like you said earlier, if I went over a different friend's house whose parents didn't care so much, or I had a friend who had a Mac and
They became your best friend.
oh yeah, he was lived across the street, but he had the nice big Mac computer with an iTunes account.
I don't dislike you, but only like you for your technology.
Yeah, so he had the cool stuff and the cool music, and he was younger than me. So I remember
Yep.
buying a CD that I listened to at his house and listened to it all the time, and it would go off when my parents were home. But
Oh yeah, yep. I had friends who I remember playing Resident Evil over my friend Mike's house when I was still, I think maybe in elementary school. So would that come out in '96 or '97, the original? Or yep, or my friend Jeremy's house. He had more freedom than and oh yeah, you'd go over, and then I mean, once I got old enough, I just bought stuff and hid it in my room. But yeah, you got those options and you kind of go for it. But thank God we didn't have smartphones though.